Thanks for staying tuned. This is Speed News. I'm Samiksha Srivastava. Let's get started. Russian President Vladimir Putin has criticized the US for pressuring India to reduce its energy oil imports from Russia, warning that such efforts would backfire and harm the global economy. Putin even expressed confidence that India, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, would not succumb to this pressure. Putin's remarks came after US President Donald Trump urged India, Europe and China to stop buying Russian oil to cut Moscow's funding for its war in Ukraine. Putin said if India were to refuse Russian energy supplies, it would lose as much as $10 billion. Munich's airport in Germany temporarily suspended operations due to drone sightings near the facility, resulting in the cancellation of 17 flights and disrupting travel plans for nearly 3,000 passengers. The airport's second busiest hub was shut down around 10:30 p.m. local time after airport staff and nearby witnesses alerted authorities to the presence of unauthorized drones. Flight operations were halted as a precautionary measure to ensure aviation safety. 15 incoming flights were diverted to nearby airports, which included Vienna and Frankfurt. The incident has raised concerns about airport security and the growing threat of unauthorized drone incursions. Thousands of protesters marched through Geneva streets expressing solidarity with Palestinians and condemning Israel's interception of the Gaza flotilla. The demonstration turned intense when protesters lit the bonfire in the Station District, which prompted police to block their path to the city centre on the bridge. According to reports, police used tear gas shells and water cannons to disperse the crowd. The Israel's Navy interception of flotilla carrying humanitarian aid and activists, including Greta Thunberg, has sparked global outrage and protests in cities like Dublin, Paris, and even Istanbul. Thousands of people have protested in Athens against Israel's interception of the Gaza-bound global Sumud flotilla. Demonstrators flew flares and fireworks towards the Israeli embassy, condemning Israel's actions as barbaric and urging government to stop support to Israel. Thousands of people rallied in Rome, Italy to protest Israel's interception of Gaza aid flotilla, which showing signs of solidarity with activists on board. Protesters even marched towards the region, the seat of the Italian government, under heavy police pressure. Protesters carried banners condemning the interception, describing it as an attack on civilian solidarity efforts. Two Jewish people died in a car ramming and stabbing attack outside a synagogue in Manchester, England. The attack came on the holiest day in the Jewish religious calendar. The attacker, identified as 35-year-old British citizen of Syrian descent, was shot dead by police after he drove a car into pedestrians and stabbed individuals nearby. Authorities have declared the incident a terror attack and increased security measures around synagogues in the UK, with Prime Minister Keir Starmer condemning the attack and even announcing additional police pressure at synagogues across the globe. Security was heightened around synagogues in Los Angeles on the holiest day of the Jewish calendar amid a surge in anti-Semitic attacks across the globe. Los Angeles mayor had announced on 20th of September that police would increase patrols around synagogues and Jewish community centers across the city in anticipation of Jewish high holy days. The move came as tensions remain high following the October 7, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel and the latter's subsequent war in Gaza, which has seen a rise in attacks on Jews and Jewish targets across the globe. President Trump has declared that the United States is engaged in non-international armed conflict with drug cartels. According to a notice that's been sent to the Congress, the declaration follows recent U.S. military strikes on boats off Venezuela, which were allegedly carrying illicit drugs. Trump even directed the Pentagon to conduct operations against them in pursuit of the law of armed conflict. Thousands of protesters have taken to the streets in Madagascar, marching across several cities. The demonstrations came after President dismissed his entire government, a move that has failed to quell public anger over chronic water shortages, power cuts and even widespread poverty. The protests have seen demonstrators demand President's resignation, waving flags and banners. The protests have been marked by clashes between protesters and security forces, with the United Nations reporting at least 22 deaths and over 100 injuries since the unrest began. Thousands of Moroccans have taken to the streets in major cities, marching and demanding reforms in public services, education and healthcare. The protest, led by the Gen Z 212 movement, decried widespread corruption and questioned the government's spending priorities, particularly the billions being invested in preparations for the 2030 World Cup, while schools and hospitals lack funds. Despite the movement's call for peaceful protests, violence broke out in several cities, which resulted in 3 deaths and over 400 arrests. A funeral service was held in Medellin, Colombia for Colombian singer Byron Sanchez, known as B. King, and his colleague DJ after Reggae Clown, after their bodies were found in Mexico. The artist disappeared on 16th of September in Mexico City after visiting a gym, and their bodies were later discovered in the state of Mexico. According to reports, they were abducted near the gym and taken out of the city. The motives behind the killings are still under investigation by Mexican authorities. Ecuadorian gang leader Rolando Federico Gomez was captured in Medellin, Colombia after a joint operation between Colombian and Ecuadorian authorities. Quende, who was one of Ecuador's most wanted men, had escaped from a maximum security prison on 20th of June by disguising himself as a soldier. A reward of $1 million was offered for information leading to his capture. He is a leader of a gang which is a powerful Ecuadorian cartel. According to authorities, he faces extradition to Ecuador, where he is wanted for crimes including drug trafficking and even prison escape. Ecuador's indigenous movement has vowed to continue protests against President Daniel Noboa's government over the elimination of diesel subsidies, which has sparked widespread demonstrations and roadblocks across the country. 11 days of demonstrations and roadblocks over a rise in the price of diesel have so far left 1 person dead and more than 100 detained. The government has declared a state of exception in 7 provinces, authorizing the military to maintain order in the region. Despite the government's offer of compensation to transporters, protesters remain skeptical and demand the reinstatement of subsidies. The protests have disrupted food as well as fuel supplies, with at least 30 roads blocked, affecting several cities in the country. Argentina President Javier Milei has faced a significant setback as the Congress overturned his vetoes on laws increasing funding for public universities and even healthcare, pediatric care. Senators invalidated both vetoes, which had already been rejected by the lower chamber of deputies, bringing to 3 the number of laws upheld by Congress despite vehement opposition from the budget slashing Milei. The vote comes as the US-backed Milei has struggled to end a run on the national currency, the peso, in the run-up to the crucial October 26th midterm elections. Garam hospital workers and university students celebrated after Congress overturned Argentine President Javier Milei's vetoes. And these are the visuals. Macias Ozario, Argentine national Macias Ozario, was handed over to Argentine authorities at the airport near Lima in Peru after being detained for his alleged involvement in triple femicide case. He was wearing shackles, an orange jumpsuit and bulletproof vest as he was transferred to an Argentine Air Force plane. Ozario is suspected of being an accomplice to Tony Jansen, also known as Little J, who is believed to be the mastermind behind the brutal murders. The triple femicide, which occurred on 19th of September, has sparked outrage across the country, with many demanding justice for the victims. The case drew attention to the growing concern of violence against women and the need for stricter laws to prevent such crimes. A new US government report says that Chinese AI models lag far behind American ones in performance, cost, security and even adoption, according to the National Institute of Standards and Technology report. Chinese models like DeepSeek are vulnerable to hacking and pose risks to AI developers, consumers and even US national security because of the security shortcomings and censorship. On nearly 20 benchmarks, DeepSeek scored lower than US models and was found to align more closely with Chinese government's narratives. The review follows President Trump's AI action plan, who had ordered for closer scrutiny of China's frontier AI systems this year in the month of July. India's Financial Intel Unit has issued notices to 25 crypto exchanges accusing them of violating anti-money laundering laws. Platforms including Bingex, L-Bank and even Poloniex have been ordered to pull off their apps and websites. Together, 14 of the 25 crypto exchanges hold over $9 billion in assets. In the month of March in 2023, India placed crypto platforms under its anti-money laundering law, requiring them to register with Financial Intel Unit of India, also known as FIU, FIU-INT, and report all transactions. OpenAI has asked a federal judge to throw out Elon Musk's lawsuit against accusing it of poaching staff and even stealing trade secrets from Zhai. In its filing on Thursday, OpenAI called the case part of Musk's ongoing harassment and said the claims are baseless. The company argued that the XIA employees are free to leave and that it is entitled to hire them if it wants to. The court battle marks the latest flashpoint in rivalry between Musk and the AI giant he helped co-found. With the federal government in a partial shutdown, traditional economic data releases have been delayed, so analysts are now turning to alternative indicators. The Chicago Fed's real-time model estimates that the US unemployment rate held steady at 4.3% in the month of September, that is unchanged from August. The steadiness suggests that despite weaker hiring and economic headwinds, a sudden surge in joblessness has not yet materialized. Still, signs of strain are present. Small businesses reportedly shed tens of thousands of jobs, and corporate layoff announcements trended lower, but hiring plans remain muted. Bank of Japan Governor Kazuo Ueda has cautioned that global uncertainty, especially from shifting US tariff policies, pose a significant risk to Japan's wage and price outlook. He stressed that while wages and prices are showing signs of improvement, it is still unclear whether that trend will broaden across the economy amid external pressures. Ueda also indicated that the Bank of Japan will need to be especially cautious in its monetary policy decisions, weighing these uncertainties as he considers future rate moves. In sum, despite positive domestic signals, the Bank of Japan head regards the outlook as highly uncertain, not confident enough yet to assume sustained momentum. Gold is eyeing a seventh straight week of gain, fueled by rising expectations of US interest rate cuts and growing uncertainty from the federal government shutdown. Spot gold climbed about 0.2 to $3,871 per ounce, just shy of a recent record high in the month of December. Futures held around $3,896 per ounce. The soft ADP jobs report, which showed a drop of 32,000 payrolls in the month of September, has strengthened rate cuts bets and has weighed on the US dollar. The shutdown may delay key economic data, which marks markets more reliant on alternative indicators and further adding to gold's appeal as a safe haven. Gold's continued rally even reflects how macro data uncertainty and policy ambiguity are pushing investors towards non-yielding assets amid the volatility. Oil prices edged up slightly on Friday after 4 days of declines, but both Brent and US crude are heading for their biggest weekly drop since the month of June. The decline comes as OPEC Plus considers raising production by 500,000 barrels per day in the month of November, triple October's increase, with Saudi Arabia aiming to regain market share. Analysts warn that this could push prices as low as $55 per barrel. Adding pressure, the US is seeing rising inventories and weaker refinery demand. Concerns over the US government shutdown, as well as a resumption of oil exports from Iraq, are also weighing on sentiment. Meanwhile, G7 nations vow to tighten pressure on Russian oil sales, a move that could further reshape global flows.